The sea is endless tonight. It breathes slowly beneath the stars, a mirror to forgotten worlds. Waves rise and fall like ancient memories, whispering names that time no longer remembers. And somewhere, beneath those restless waters, a story waits. A story of a city that was said to shine brighter than gold and fall faster than pride itself. They called it Atlantis. For thousands of years, poets, scholars, and dreamers have spoken its name, a legend wrapped in the salt of the sea. Some said it was a warning from the gods, others a metaphor for human arrogance. But what if it wasn't just a myth? What if Atlantis was real, only not where we've been looking? The night deepens. The ocean hums with a low, eternal rhythm. Imagine standing on a cliff centuries ago as the horizon glows with the last light of the dying sun. You hear gulls cry. You smell rain on stone. And far out there, in the distance, something flickers beneath the waves. A pulse of light, a heartbeat of history. It is said the philosopher Plato was the first to speak its name, nearly 8,400 years ago. He described a magnificent island beyond the Pillars of Hercules, a realm of wisdom, power, and divine perfection, a place that defied the limits of men. Atlantis, he said, was blessed by the gods themselves, until its people grew proud, until their greed and desire reached too high, and the ocean claimed them all. But Plato never said it was just a myth. He said it was history, passed down through generations. And yet, as the centuries drifted by, the story of Atlantis changed shape. It became a riddle, a ghost, a map drawn in imagination. Explorers searched the Atlantic, philosophers searched the meaning, but the truth, perhaps, slipped quietly somewhere else. Listen closely now to the sound of the waves. Each one carries a memory, each one a question. Where did this story come from, and why does it still echo so powerfully through time? Maybe, in the end, Atlantis isn't about a city lost to water, but about something deeper, buried inside us all. The longing for perfection, the ache for a world before the fall, the dream that somewhere beneath the blue, the golden towers still sleep. The night wind softens, the sea sighs, and as the stars bloom above the dark horizon, our journey begins. We sail into the past, gently, slowly, following the faint trail of myths that refuse to die. Before we drift further into the story tonight, tell me, where are you listening from right now? Leave a small note in the comments below and share how this legend makes you feel. I'd love to know who's traveling through history beside me tonight, because together we'll uncover something few have truly seen. The real story of Atlantis, but not where you think. Long before the name Atlantis ever reached human tongues, the world was young. A quiet, shimmering place wrapped in ocean mist. The stars hung closer then, or perhaps people looked higher. And across the great waters stood an island so perfect that even the gods envied its calm. They said the sea itself protected it, a ring of endless blue around a heart of gold. Forests of silver-leaved trees whispered in warm winds. Rivers wound through crystal valleys, glimmering like threads of glass. And in the center of it all rose a mountain, tall, proud, and sacred. It was here, they said, that Poseidon, god of the sea, laid his trident upon the earth and shaped his paradise. From the heart of the mountain he carved a spring, two streams flowing side by side, one warm and one cold, to feed the island's life forever. And upon that mountain he placed his chosen people, children born of gods and mortals, half human, half divine. The people of Atlantis were unlike any the world had ever known. They were builders of impossible beauty, dreamers who shaped marble as if it were clay. Their cities shimmered with polished white stone. Bridges stretched across sapphire waters, and at night their towers caught the moonlight and sent it dancing across the waves. From the air, it must have looked like a living crown of light, glowing gently upon the dark sea. But what made Atlantis powerful wasn't only its beauty, it was its wisdom. The Atlanteans understood balance between sky and sea, between creation and care. They built temples not to worship, but to remember, to honor the harmony between the world and the soul that lives within it. And in the center of their grand city stood the temple of Poseidon, built from red, white, and black stones. Its walls were covered in patterns of the stars, its gates guarded by bulls of bronze and gold. Inside, the air shimmered with salt and firelight, where priests whispered secrets of the tides. They say the gods taught them how to read the language of the earth, how to feel when storms were coming, how to find warmth beneath the stone, how to call upon the winds to carry their ships farther than any other. And so, Atlantis became the crown jewel of the ancient world. Its ships sailed to every shore. Its people traded knowledge for gold, music for silence, and wisdom for peace. For 1,000 years, they lived as one with the sea, not above it, not against it, but with it. Yet, in every paradise, a shadow grows. Power loves its own reflection, and with each generation, the Atlanteans began to forget. They built more temples, but prayed less. They spoke more of conquest than of balance. And somewhere, in the heart of that perfect island, the first cracks began to form. The ocean, though silent, never forgets. And the gods, they listen, even when men stop whispering. The winds of Atlantis still carry songs of its golden age, songs that speak of a time when gods walked beside men, and men began to think themselves gods. The sea once whispered softly around Atlantis. Now, it roared with the power of ships, fleets of white sails stretching to the edge of the horizon. The people who once built temples for peace now built empires for glory. Their oars sliced through water like silver knives, and the sky above them burned with the reflection of their ambition. From the high towers of the capital, smoke rose from countless forges. Gold was melted into crowns. Iron was shaped into weapons. And in the great halls of Poseidon's temple, where once the songs of gratitude echoed, now came only the sound of marching feet. Atlantis had begun to rise beyond its borders. They sent emissaries to distant lands, across Africa, into Europe, over the unknown waters where few dared to sail. Their ships carried scrolls of knowledge and tablets of power, but not all of what they brought was peace. For knowledge, when mixed with pride, becomes something else, something sharper. The kings of Atlantis declared themselves chosen, blessed by the gods, destined to rule all lands touched by the sea. And for a time, it seemed unstoppable. Their armies glimmered like lightning across the earth. Cities bowed to their flag. Gold flowed homeward like rivers of light. But deep within the heart of the island, the old ones, the priests, the dreamers, the keepers of balance, began to fear. They warned the kings that the sea was watching, that every tide gives and takes in equal measure, that power drawn too far will always pull something back. The kings laughed. The sea was calm. The storms had not yet come, and so Atlantis grew even prouder. Their palaces stretched higher. Their temples sparkled with jewels. The streets of the capital glowed with torches through the night, reflecting off fountains carved from marble. It was said that you could see the light of Atlantis from miles away, a golden city, floating like a crown upon the ocean. But beauty can blind, and when men forget where their light came from, the darkness begins to whisper. Plato wrote that Atlantis ruled all lands within the Mediterranean, except one, a small, stubborn place that refused to bow, ancient Athens. The Athenians, though smaller and humbler, held fast to their old gods and their belief in balance, and in their refusal, Atlantis saw insult, so they prepared for war. The drums echoed across the harbors. Thousands gathered under white banners painted with the crest of the trident. From the cliffs, children watched the ships vanish into the haze, the sound of sails like the breath of some great beast stirring in its sleep. No one then could imagine that these sails carried not just an army, but the beginning of the end. The gods, it is said, do not strike in anger, only in balance. And when men forget the rhythm of the world begins to remind them. The empire of Atlantis stretched far and wide, its power unmatched, its pride unshaken. But even as the people celebrated their conquests, a single whisper began to echo through the deep, a warning carried by the sea itself. The ocean had always been kind to Atlantis. It fed them, carried their ships, and wrapped the island in its eternal blue arms. But one night, the waves began to sound different. They rolled heavier, slower, as if burdened by something unseen, and from the depths came a low, trembling hum, so faint it might have been mistaken for the sigh of the wind. In the great temple of Poseidon, the high priests gathered. They felt it first, the stillness before the breath of the storm. Candles flickered, not from breeze but from the pulse of the ground beneath them. The marble floor trembled, just once, then went still. The priests exchanged glances, silent, uneasy. The sea, they whispered, was changing. That same week, fishermen along the coast began to tell strange stories. They spoke of lights beneath the waves, moving like constellations come alive, of fish rising to the surface, gasping as if the deep itself were exhaling, of tides that came too early and lingered too long. But when word reached the palace, the kings laughed. "Let the sea speak," they said. "We are its masters." They raised their cups to the gods, proud and unafraid, while beneath them the water carried the weight of silence. In the quiet hours of the night, an old seer walked to the cliffs overlooking the harbor. He had seen many things in his dreams, some beautiful, others terrible. But this dream would not leave him. He saw fire beneath the sea. He saw the great towers of Atlantis shudder like reeds in the wind. He saw the moon reflected in waters that swallowed cities whole. And he wept, not for himself, but for the beauty that would soon be gone. He tried to warn them, the kings, the generals, the builders. But his voice was just one among thousands, and the songs of celebration were louder. Still, the signs grew stronger. Animals fled the coasts. Wells turned warm. The air grew heavy, thick with a taste of iron. And one morning, as the sun rose over the mountain, a crack split the earth near the temple of Poseidon. It was small, no wider than a finger, but from it came a soft hiss, like the breath of something ancient waking from sleep. The priests gathered again. They poured water into the crack, whispered prayers to the sea, and waited. The water vanished instantly, swallowed whole by the earth, and in its place came a faint, rising heat. Something was stirring below. That night the wind returned, not gentle, not kind, but restless. It moved through the streets, rattling the doors, whispering through the towers. Children woke crying from dreams they couldn't remember. Dogs howled at the ocean, and somewhere in the distance, thunder rolled, though no clouds hung in the sky. It was as if the sea itself had begun to breathe differently, faster, angrier, alive. But the kings, drunk with victory from their war abroad, dismissed every sign. To them, it was only nature, the harmless growl of a loyal servant. And so the celebrations continued. Fireworks lit the sky. Music echoed across the water. No one noticed that the ground no longer stood still beneath their feet. That was the first omen, the heartbeat of the ocean growing louder. The gods had not spoken in words, but in tremors, and still no one listened. The first storm came without warning. No dark clouds, no thunder in the distance, only silence, the kind that makes the world feel like it's holding its breath. Then the wind began to turn, slowly at first, curling through the valleys, lifting the ocean's scent into the air. It passed through the temples, through the sleeping gardens, across the marble courtyards that once shimmered with laughter. And then it grew stronger. The torches lining the harbor flickered and died, one by one. Birds took flight, crying out over the restless sea. By dawn, the sky was gray. A single wave broke against the northern shore, higher than any before it. It struck the docks and splintered them apart like twigs. The sound carried through the entire island, like the echo of some great bell ringing beneath the water. In the palace, the kings gathered. From their high windows they watched the sea rise and fall in strange, heavy patterns. One of them, the youngest, spoke softly. "The gods," he whispered, "are awake." But no one wanted to hear it. They ordered soldiers to reinforce the harbor, to move the ships farther inland. The priests were told to offer gold to the altars, to beg for mercy in Poseidon's name. Yet the storm only grew stronger. Rain came like sheets of silver. The wind tore through the trees and sent shards of white stone tumbling from the towers. The sea crashed over the walls once thought unbreakable, and still, in their pride, the kings refused to flee. The people gathered in the temples, clutching their children, whispering prayers older than memory. They lit candles that the wind snuffed out. They sang songs to the gods, who no longer answered. Outside, lightning flashed across the mountain, not from the sky, but from the sea itself. Bolts of light burst upward from beneath the waves, glowing through the water like veins of fire. The ocean was no longer calm. It was alive. The ground began to shake again, harder now, longer. Walls cracked, bridges bent. The once smooth marble streets split open like the skin of the earth. The golden statues of Poseidon toppled, their faces breaking upon the stones. Everywhere the people ran, not toward safety, but in circles, searching for something that could not be saved. The priests cried out that it was too late, that the gods had remembered, that the balance had been broken beyond repair. From the highest tower the last king stood and looked upon his kingdom. He saw the flames from broken homes reflecting in the floodwaters below. He saw the mountain that had once been their pride now glowing red at its peak, and he understood. It was not war or greed that doomed them. It was forgetting who they were and where their gift had come from. As night fell again, the storm reached its heart. Winds screamed like voices of the dead. The sea rose higher than any living man had ever seen, and with a final, shattering roar, the island trembled to its core. In that moment, the stars disappeared. The horizon vanished. There was only water, fire, and silence. They say the gods do not punish, they balance. And that night, the sea took back everything it had ever given. When the storm reached its heart, even the sky seemed to vanish. There was no horizon, no division between sea and air, only movement, endless and heavy. The rain fell sideways, whispering through the ruins, and lightning flashed not to light the world, but to show how little of it remained. The temples had already collapsed. The great harbor was gone, swallowed whole. The mountains glowed red like dying coals under ash-colored clouds. And yet, in the midst of that chaos, some still prayed. They gathered by the sacred steps, their faces lit by the last trembling fires. Mothers held children, the old held memory, and all of them turned their eyes toward the sea, as if hoping the gods might change their minds. But the sea did not listen. It rose. The final tremor began like a heartbeat, slow, deep, and growing louder. The ground split beneath the marble avenues. Statues toppled into the waves. One by one, the lights went out, and then came the sound. Not thunder, not wind, but something older. It was the voice of the ocean itself rising from below. A long, endless rumble, as if the earth were exhaling after holding its breath for too long. The central mountain cracked. Fire burst through its crown, and the last of the city, the towers, the bridges, the golden domes, all began to tilt, sliding toward the water like sand falling through an hourglass. Those who tried to run found no ground left to stand on. Those who stayed found the sea already at their doors, and those who closed their eyes said they could hear something beneath the waves, a low song, not cruel, not kind, just ancient. The king stood upon the last stone of the palace terrace. Rain streaked down his armor, washing away the dust and blood. He looked to the horizon where the sun should have been, but it was gone. Only a pale glow remained, like the last breath of a dying world. He did not shout. He did not beg. He only placed his crown on the ground beside the broken sword of his fathers and whispered something no one else could hear. Then the sea rose above him. For a moment, everything went still. No sound, no wind, just the hush of the deep closing over the city. A silence so vast it felt like time itself had stopped. And when the first light of dawn returned, there was nothing. No island, no temple, no sound of human life, only waves rolling gently over a smooth, blue plain. But they say, if you sail far enough west and dive deep enough, there are places where the seafloor still glows faintly at night. Stone pillars covered in coral, broken statues with eyes that catch the light, and a silence that feels almost alive. Some divers claim to hear music down there, faint, echoing, like voices from another age. Others say it's just the ocean's current moving through the ruins. But maybe, just maybe, it's the sound of Atlantis still breathing. Because some stories never end. They only fall asleep, waiting for us to remember them. If you've made it this far, my friend, tell me, where are you listening from tonight? Somewhere quiet? Somewhere far? Drop your location in the comments. I'd love to know where this story found you. And if you felt the waves of Atlantis tonight, don't forget to subscribe, because the sea still keeps many secrets, and we'll dive deeper next time. Centuries passed. The sea grew quiet again. The world forgot the island's name, almost. But whispers have a way of surviving. They cling to stories, pass through generations, and hide in the spaces between dreams. And so, even after 1,000 years, the legend of Atlantis still drifted across the world, like a message sealed in salt and memory. Sailors spoke of lights beneath the waves. Old priests wrote of vanished lands beyond the Pillars of Hercules. And somewhere in the heart of Greece, a philosopher began to write. His name was Plato, and in his quiet study, by the dim glow of an oil lamp, he wrote words that would ignite centuries of wonder. He spoke of a great island, rich in wisdom, beauty, and power, that had fallen in a single night. He called it Atlantis. For Plato, the story was a mirror, a warning to the proud, a reminder that even the greatest civilizations could drown in their own ambition. But for everyone who read his words, it became something else entirely. It became a mystery. Where was it? Was it truly real? Could a place so magnificent have vanished without a trace? Generations of explorers began to chase the idea like a shadow on the water. Some sailed west toward the Atlantic, convinced the island lay beyond the known world. Others turned south to the warm edges of Africa. Some even whispered that the ruins still slept beneath the Mediterranean itself, hidden under centuries of coral and sand. In every age, someone claimed to have found it. Maps were drawn, expeditions launched, and each time the waves swallowed their answers before they could return. But the search continued. In the age of discovery, when ships carried men to the ends of the earth, sailors swore they had seen strange shapes beneath the sea. Pillars that looked like gates, walls too straight to be natural, and lights, faint, flickering, far below the surface, as if something ancient still breathed there. Some said it was imagination, others said it was madness, but a few claimed it was memory. When the first divers descended into the deep, their lights cut through darkness untouched for millennia. There, beneath the silence, they found things that shouldn't have been there. Carved stones, fragments of walls, patterns that echoed human hands. And every time they rose to the surface, they brought with them more questions than answers. Was it Atlantis? Or simply what we wanted to find? Because perhaps the legend isn't only buried in the sea, perhaps it's buried in us. A reflection of something we lost long ago. Balance, harmony, wonder. Plato's words spoke of a civilization that rose higher than any before it, but forgot what made it human. And maybe that's why we still search. Not for a city, but for the part of ourselves that remembers what it meant to belong to something beautiful, before we sank into noise and ambition. Even now, satellites map the ocean floor, tracing shapes that look too perfect to be nature's own. And deep-sea probes send back images of strange structures rising from the abyss. But every discovery seems to whisper the same thing. Atlantis is close, but never quite within reach. Maybe that's how it's meant to be. A dream you can almost touch, but never hold. Because if it were truly found, if it became just another name on a map, the mystery would die. And Atlantis was never meant to die again. The sea remembers, even when we forget. If you're still awake, I'd love to know. Do you think Atlantis was real? Or do you think it's a reflection of something deeper, something within us? Tell me in the comments. I read everyone, and your thoughts keep these journeys alive. And stay with me, because in the next part, we'll follow the clues that modern science has uncovered beneath the waves. Places that might just prove Plato was right all along. The ocean never forgets. It hides, but it remembers. Beneath its slow-moving skin lie the bones of continents and the quiet pulse of time. For thousands of years, the world's explorers searched above the waves, but the truth, it seems, was always below. Only when humanity learned to see beneath the surface did the whispers of Atlantis grow louder once again. In the 20th century, technology gave us eyes that could peer into the dark. Sonar scans, deep-sea cameras, diving vessels strong enough to reach the cold, silent floor, and there, scattered like broken memories, they found shapes that defied nature. Off the coast of Bimini in the Bahamas, divers discovered something extraordinary. Massive stone slabs, aligned with precision, stretching across the seafloor like an ancient road. They called it the Bimini Road. Each block was cut so neatly, so intentionally, that it seemed impossible for the waves to have done it alone. Some said it was a harbor wall, the edge of a sunken city. Others, a trick of geology. But under the calm blue water, as the light filtered down like glass, it was hard not to feel that something once lived there. Something that breathed, built, and vanished. Then came the Azores, rising from the mid-Atlantic like the peaks of a drowned mountain range. These islands became the center of new theories. Scientists mapped strange plateaus far below their shores. Broad, flat expanses that seemed carved, not formed. The ocean floor there told a story of sudden collapse, of land that once stood tall before sinking beneath the sea. Was this the echo of Plato's island beyond the Pillars of Hercules? Or was it just another coincidence shaped by time and tide? And then, the Mediterranean. In 2009, near the coast of Cyprus, marine archaeologists uncovered ruins beneath the waves. Columns, foundations, walls. Some swore they matched Plato's descriptions of concentric rings and temples devoted to Poseidon. Others dismissed it as an illusion. But the water, it felt heavy there, as if it knew the truth. Even in Japan, near Yonaguni, the ocean revealed its secrets. A massive, stepped structure, ancient, geometric, beautiful, rising from the seabed like a forgotten ziggurat. Was it human, or simply the earth carving poetry into stone? No one could say for sure. Each discovery, each image sent from the deep, added another voice to the chorus. Atlantis was not just one place anymore, it was everywhere. Every coastline, every ruin, every unexplained pattern whispered the same haunting message. Something came before us. But the ocean guards its stories well. For every clue, it gives us silence. For every answer, it offers another riddle. Maybe that's its way of teaching patience, reminding us that truth is never loud. It hides in the quiet, beneath miles of pressure and darkness, waiting for those who truly listen. And perhaps that's why the myth endures. Not because we want to find Atlantis, but because we want to believe the sea still holds mysteries beyond our reach. That somewhere below the waves lies proof that the world was once more magical than we dared imagine. So we keep searching, with drones, with satellites, with dreams. And sometimes, when a camera passes through a narrow canyon of coral, or a light catches the edge of a carved stone, For a second, the sea seems to whisper back. Atlantis was not alone in its silence. The ocean, it seems, remembers more than one story. Across time and tide, other civilizations rose, brilliant, powerful, and then gone. Some call them myths, some call them dreams. But every legend carries a kernel of truth, and every truth is a shadow of something greater. To the far east, beyond the islands of the Pacific, sailors once whispered of Lemuria, a land connecting the continents, lush and alive, swallowed by the waves long before recorded history. Its people, they said, possessed wisdom of the stars. They understood the rhythm of the oceans, the pulse of the earth, and the secrets of the heavens. They vanished, leaving only scattered artifacts and tales that drifted on the wind. Then there is Mu, in the vast stretches of the Pacific, a civilization older than memory itself. Some explorers claimed its temples lie beneath the ocean near Polynesia. Other scholars dismissed the stories as fantasy, yet the patterns etched into the seabed, straight lines, sharp angles, circles within circles, seem too deliberate to be nature alone. Even the sands of Africa and the Americas hold whispers of lost empires. Ruins rise from deserts, half buried in time, echoing with strange symbols no one can fully decode. Some archaeologists suggest these may be remnants of the same world that Atlantis once ruled. An interconnected network of civilizations, all gifted and all fragile. Perhaps Atlantis was a warning. Perhaps it was a part of something larger, a mirror, showing humanity both what it could achieve and what it could lose. In the myths of these civilizations, there are threads that repeat. Cities built with knowledge far beyond their time. Temples aligned to the stars. Waterways carved to guide both ships and wisdom. And always, the sudden, inexplicable disappearance. Some believed these disappearances were natural. Earthquakes, floods, volcanic eruptions. Others suggest a celestial hand. Comets, floods, cosmic alignments. The wrath of gods displeased with human ambition. But maybe it is simpler than that. Civilizations vanish when balance is forgotten, when harmony with the earth, sea, and sky is lost, when pride outweighs gratitude, and yet the traces remain, buried deep, faded into sand or stone, whispering like ghosts to those willing to listen. Atlantis, Lemuria, Mu, names that stir our imagination, names that make us wonder if the earth itself once held secrets far greater than the maps we draw today. And when we dive into the deep, when we study the stars, when we walk among ancient ruins, perhaps we are following echoes of a time when the world was young, and humanity was still learning its place. It is a humbling thought that beneath our feet, beneath the waves, lies a memory older than ourselves. And when we remember it, even in whispers, we honor it. These forgotten empires, though gone, are never truly silent. Their stories flow through the oceans, the winds, and the hearts of those who still dream. The sea holds its secrets well. Even centuries after a civilization vanishes, the water remembers. It carries echoes, whispers, and shadows of lives that once filled the world with light. Modern explorers, armed with sonar, deep-diving vessels, and cameras that cut through darkness, have begun to glimpse these echoes. On the ocean floor, they find structures too deliberate to be natural. Straight lines of stone, massive blocks arranged like foundations, patterns repeating across the seabed as if someone had planned them. In the Atlantic, beneath the waves near the Azores, surveys reveal strange formations, long ridges, terraces, and circular depressions. They could be volcanic. They could be coincidence. But the mind cannot help but remember Plato's words. Off the coast of Bimini, divers swim along the Bimini Road, a path of stone slabs perfectly aligned, stretching farther than the eye can see. Some call it a natural formation. Others feel its rhythm. The way the stones lie suggests planning, purpose, intent. A human hand once shaped them. Or perhaps something older. And then there are relics, shards of pottery, hints of structures, patterns carved into stone that no one can fully explain. They lie beneath layers of sand and coral, waiting patiently for discovery. Each artifact is a whisper from the past, a reminder that Atlantis did not vanish entirely. Its story is not lost, only hidden. Even science cannot fully explain it. Geologists measure sudden drops and rises in the sea floor. Archaeologists study anomalous shapes. Oceanographers detect currents that move in ways that suggest submerged architecture. And yet, the full picture remains just out of reach, tantalizing, mysterious, like a dream fading upon waking. Some researchers suggest these traces might connect to other lost civilizations, Lemuria, Mu, and the many empires swallowed by the seas. Perhaps Atlantis was not alone. Perhaps it was part of a network of worlds, brilliant and fragile, that humanity has only begun to rediscover. But even as we map, photograph, and analyze, the ocean preserves its silence. It gives, and it takes. For every structure revealed, 1,000 remain hidden. For every artifact raised to the surface, the sea guards countless more. Perhaps that is why the legend endures. Because we are drawn not to certainty, but to possibility. The story of Atlantis lives in the imagination, in dreams of the deep, in the way the waves fold and shimmer beneath moonlight, in the quiet thrill of seeing something impossible and wondering if it is true. The city may be gone, but its heartbeat lingers, in the rocks, in the currents, in the endless blue that hides more than we will ever know. Even in its absence, Atlantis speaks, not in words, not in voices, but in echoes carried by the waves, the winds, and the silent stones beneath the sea. Its story is more than history. It is a mirror. The rise of Atlantis shows us what humanity can achieve when knowledge, creativity, and harmony align. Its cities were breathtaking, its canals and temples precise, its people wise beyond measure. Theirs was a civilization that embraced the rhythm of the earth, the pulse of the sea, and the song of the stars. Yet the fall reminds us that greatness is fragile. Pride, when unchecked, can topple towers faster than the fiercest storm. Ambition, when divorced from balance, invites ruin. Atlantis did not fall because it was weak. It fell because it forgot humility, respect, and the limits of human control. In that silence beneath the waves, there is a lesson for us all. Civilizations rise. They shine. They touch the heavens with their hands, and they fade. Perhaps that is why the legend endures. It teaches patience. It reminds us to listen, to honor the balance between creation and care, to respect the oceans that carry our ships, the earth beneath our feet, and the skies above that guide our dreams. We search for Atlantis not only to find stones or temples, but to find ourselves reflected in its story. To ask, how will we wield our knowledge? Will we grow with wisdom or collapse under pride? Can we build beauty without forgetting the fragile balance that sustains it? Even today, when divers peer into the abyss and glimpse faint lights or strange shapes, it is not just Atlantis they see. It is a warning. It is a whisper of what we can achieve and what we can lose. The ocean still carries its memory. The wind still whispers through lost streets. The stars still shine over waters that once held the laughter of a brilliant people. And perhaps, if we listen closely, we can hear the song of Atlantis not as a lament, but as a guide. A quiet reminder that greatness and humility must travel together, that every empire, every city, every life is part of a greater rhythm, and that the past is never truly gone. It lives in the lessons we choose to carry forward. Atlantis mirrors us, our triumphs, our flaws, our endless longing for perfection. Its story, though submerged, flows through time, reminding us of both wonder and responsibility. The waves move quietly now. The storm has passed. The ruins lie beneath the endless blue, silent but alive in memory. Atlantis no longer stands above the water. Its temples, towers, and canals sleep beneath the sea, yet it is not gone. Every ripple carries its story. Every echo of the ocean whispers its lessons. We, too, are part of this rhythm. Civilizations rise and fall. Stars shine and fade. Generations pass like waves, touching the shore and leaving only fleeting marks. And yet, in the quiet moments, we can feel the weight of all that has come before. We can see the brilliance, the ambition, the pride, and the humility of those who lived and dreamed long ago. Atlantis reminds us that greatness is both a gift and a responsibility. It teaches that beauty, knowledge, and power are fragile, that the choices we make, how we treat each other, the world, and the knowledge we inherit, shape not only our present, but the stories that drift into the future. Even in silence, even beneath layers of water and time, it reaches us. It whispers that history is never just about the past. It is about the connection between what was, what is, and what may yet come. We are heirs to countless dreams and countless mistakes, and perhaps in understanding them, we can navigate our own path more wisely. The ocean carries its secrets, but it also offers calm. As we close our eyes tonight, we can imagine the city once more, the golden light glimmering across canals, the wind through the streets, the laughter and songs of a people who touched the stars in their own way. It is both lost and present, both real and imagined, and it is ours to remember, to reflect upon, and to honor. So as you drift into sleep, think of Atlantis not as a place beneath the waves, but as a living story, one that moves with the tides of time, reminding us of wonder, humility, and the endless journey of humanity. Before you drift away, share where you're listening from in the comments below. I'd love to know. And if you'd like more peaceful journeys through forgotten history, remember to subscribe. Sleep well, traveler. The city may sleep beneath the waves, but its story and the stories it inspires in us will continue to flow, quietly, endlessly, like the ocean itself.